post-lunch sessions, but this is more than you already had something post-lunch. So, but hopefully people are still enthused for the rest of the day, because I think there's some very exciting things on the agenda as well. So I'm here to, I'm not here in speaking right now in my capacity, as a policy person, but that's something I'll do on a later panel. But here I'm speaking as somebody who's living with this condition. I was diagnosed 2 years back with a very rare condition, which I think many of you would maybe never have even heard of, called ALK positive lung cancer, which is a very rare lung cancer, which predominantly, actually, interestingly, affects young people, affects non-smokers, contrary to what we always associate lung cancer with is tobacco, but this is something that affects mostly non-smokers. And women of Southeast Asian descent are, for some unfortunate reason, also at a higher risk of getting this cancer. But what is the worst part of this is that in over about 90% of the cases, it's diagnosed at what we call a stage 4 or metastatic. So it's already spread, considerably, which means that as of now, it's an incurable condition. And when I was first diagnosed, I was told that I would be lucky in quotes, if I got 5 to 7 years. And I was only 35 then. I'm only 37 now. And you can imagine hearing that when you're 35, that you would be lucky if you got 5 to 7 years. So I think, because I don't think there's anything lucky about that, and I'm sure you'd all agree with me, and that'll come to the broader points I want to make in terms of the language, etc., that we also use around cancer. So I think, I want to just highlight 2-3 aspects, and it's really through my own journey. As I said, I'm not speaking right now as a policy person. That's something I'll do later. But one is that naturally when you get this kind of a sort of a death sentence handed out to you and you're such a young person, there's a huge overwhelming feeling that you have, and your emotions are completely unmanageable. And I don't think that we have very many trained people who really are able to help you manage those. I think we have a huge shortage of that. So I think, and oncologists, of course, are too busy doing their bare minimum job, and they're also not necessarily trained to handle the whole, psychological, emotional well-being of a person, somebody who's just been diagnosed, and what they go through. So I think we do need, I needed a lot of support, but a lot of that was support I had to find on my own. And I had to kind of go out and tell doctors that, listen, I'm in trouble beyond the cancer, the psychological aspects, the mental health and well-being aspects. So that's something I had to do. And so I feel that that is something that should naturally come to all people living with cancer, and it's not something they should have to seek so much. I think the second thing, I would say is that stage 4 clearly needs more. I think we celebrate all the advancements we've made, rightly so. In many cases, for many people, even a cure is very much possible with cancer. But there's still many people like me who don't have that cure in sight, who are told, like I said, it was almost like a charity or a handout that I was being given, that, you were lucky if you get 5 to 7 years, which was shocking to me, to even hear something like that for someone so young. You're not speaking to someone who's 60, 70, 80, when, this might sound even a little more okay then. So I think, given that a number of people are diagnosed, unfortunately, at later stages, or there are certain types of cancers which, like I said, in this case, there are absolutely no symptoms, and suddenly one day, you realize that you have this kind of diagnosis, and that's how I went. I went from absolutely fit to diagnosis in less than 2 months. I had absolutely nothing before that. So, and you're a non-smoker, you're a young person, so you're not really going for any kind of screening of that kind, right? It's not the typical, what you might do for breast or for cervical or for other issues. So I think given that we do have these type of cancers and we do have people diagnosed at later stages, it's not good enough to say to them that, hey, listen, if you get a few years, be happy. We need to do better. So as I say, stage 4 needs more. It needs better drugs, it needs better treatments. We need to be able to give people longer and better quality lives. And hopefully, eventually, of course, work towards a cure, because that should be the goal of any treatment that we provide. So I think that is a very important point that I do want to make. And I think, from my own experience, I would also say that, and I know I'm speaking about caregiving, etc. later on, so I won't really get into the technical aspects of that. But I think from my experience, I realized that a lot of my, even my own family, friends, people are very unprepared, to deal with somebody who has something like this if they've never experienced it. And fortunately, all my friends, without exception, have never, seen somebody even close to them who's had to go through something like I'm going through. So nobody could really relate to me, and I don't think they relate to me even today. So it becomes very important, to have people who are also professionals who can provide that kind of help and support, because it's not necessary that a friend and family will always be able to step in. They themselves might, in fact, need a lot of support and a lot of sort of training, in a sense, almost, that how do you deal with somebody who's just got this life-shattering diagnosis. So I think that is something that we need to focus on. But like I said, I'll talk more of the technical aspects from my public health training and from my policy training subsequently. So I think in the end, I would just say that, for me as a survivor, often people will come to me and say, oh, you're so strong and you're so inspirational. And I can tell you, I sometimes get very irritated hearing these words, to be honest, because it's what do you mean by strong? I'm as human as anybody sitting here, right? I'm just as human. It's just that fate, destiny, luck, whatever you might call it, has handed me out something that I have no choice but to live with, right? So this whole thing of strong is, I think, we need to stop using this word, at least in my opinion, because it really puts me off. And there's nothing very glorious about the life I live. It's a very tough life. I'm standing here in front of you, I'm wearing this sari, I've made a very special effort, but that's not how my everyday life looks. That's not how my everyday struggle looks. So there's a fine line between being positive and giving hope and, what we call toxic positivity, or just glorifying somebody's suffering. So I wouldn't want to in any way portray that kind of a picture. I think cancer has robbed me of a lot. It's robbed me of my health, my happiness, the future that I was building with my husband, robbed me of a career, possibly, and left me with this death sentence, I don't know when you're going to die types. Every PET scan is going to determine how much longer I'm going to live. But I would just say that it has not been able to rob me of my spirit. And that is something I attribute only to my parents. It's because of them. It's because of how they've brought me up, how I've seen them living their lives, which have also been full of challenges of all kinds. I would say it's because of my parents that the one thing this disease hasn't been able to rob me, and I'm pretty sure it will not be able to rob me of this till the very last moment, is my spirit. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.